Welcome to the Sport Exchange with me, John Robbie. Hi guys, welcome to the Sport Exchange podcast where we meet sporting personalities and learn about their lives and their life stories. Today the Sport Exchange podcast meets a man who has played professional rugby for many years, 10 in fact. He played for different franchises, but he can look in his cupboard and see the beloved Springbok blazer. He won a single cap versus Italy in 2010 as a late replacement. He is a test player. Bandise Maku, welcome and thanks for joining us.
No, thank you very much, John. Thanks for having me. Certainly a privilege to sit across the table at this stage. Thank you very much for inviting me as well.
Thank you very much indeed. One cap wonder. Sometimes people talk about that, but that's the most important one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for me, it's almost like I feel like I was able to play in a very important generation in terms of South African rugby. I think that team was a team that had won the World Cup, and the quality of the hookers at the time was just exceptional in South Africa. So I actually feel quite honored to being able to represent my country, even if it was just for a moment.
Go through some of the players who were around. Yeah, John Smith, of course, was there.
I mean, John Schmidt, Bismarck, Adrian, Strauss, Tian Liedenberg, Skark Brits, Chile was there. And all of us were literally fighting to be able to represent our country. And I feel very honored to being able to share and compete against those players.
Are you the shortest international career in the world? I think you're 1 minute. Is that right?
Yeah, 1 minute. I remember. I think I can't. What was it?
Talk us through your career. No, your international career. Seriously, it was at home against Italy, wasn't it?
It was home against Italy. I think Chile was starting that game, and we had I thought personally that I'll probably get more time to be able to play. But I mean, it happened how it happened, and I still feel blessed to be able to represent this box.
So, what did you feel like as you ran onto the field?
I think you're almost overwhelmed to realize that you've just, the national anthem for me was massive to actually realize that you now sing a national anthem because now you're about to represent the Springboks.
But you sing the national anthem at the beginning of the game.
Yes.
79th minute.
Yeah.
Did you know you were going to get on?
At some stage, I was actually okay to not to come. I thought myself, yes, I've had a beautiful experience of sitting on the touchline and actually being part of a Springbok test team. If it didn't happen for me that afternoon, I was willing to wait for another opportunity. Yeah.
So how does it actually happen? Does a message come from the coach?
It comes from the coach, and I think for me, I'd played under Peter de Villiers, under my junior rugby under ASN 21. So I knew he knew that I can do a job for him. I just had to be patient and wait for my opportunity to come on.
So did you touch the ball in your career?
Yes, I did. I had 2 lineouts and 2 scrubs.
and did you win them all?
No, we won them all. Yeah, luckily Victor was there, so I played him with the ball, so I sort of knew what type of ball he would call in the lineouts, and we had a good scrum, quite a precious scrum, 5 meters away from our try line, and we were able to exit. And pretty happy with my.
Did you ever look in the cupboard at the cap and the blazer? Be honest.
I have. And you know what? Sometimes you don't realize what impact you've actually made. My friends made a big fuss about it. And for me, it was almost like, as a professional player, you get to a point where you're ticking boxes and you continue. It's only now when you hear guys that they've played 20 or 15 years or so and have never had opportunity to represent the Springboks that you realize, you know what, that was actually something special. I think when you play, you miss special moments because it's just another day. You're aiming for something higher next week. It's only afterwards you realize, but you know what, I actually did something special a little bit in my career.
Not bad for a youngster from King Williamstown. Hey?
Not bad, especially for Mount Cook Mission. I come from the rural areas there. My parents are still down there, so they still stay down there. So I'm a proper rural boy.
Tell us about, before we move on to Dale,
yes,
which is obviously one of the bastions
yes,
of South African rugby, and maybe even more so now than ever. We'll talk about that in a moment. Tell us about rural rugby in the Eastern Cape.
Yes, I think every Easter there's still a rugby tournament. They play. There and cricket are the 2 main sports that people want to participate. We don't really have soccer in the Eastern Cape. It's rugby. So it's rural areas. They've got leagues. They play for rugby jerseys. They play for meat. They play for a little bit of cash. So it's within the culture that rugby is a main sport down there.
And the obvious question then is, and now that you're a franchise coordinator, yes, we'll talk about that later, yes, as well. You're with the Bulls, yes, you're in the system, yes, so to speak. How is it that the Kings are not one of the best provincial sides in the world. What's gone wrong?
Yes, I think it's tough to quantify. I mean, all the good schools are down there. I think for me personally, you'd expect, let's say, the Kings in Western Province to be the two unions that probably perform the best, because they've got brilliant schools that play rugby. Same as at the Eastern Cape, brilliant schools that play rugby. I think it's a matter of maybe a little bit of administration, having a plan, someone going down there and having a proper plan.
But how can we be saying this now?
Yes.
So many years after the new South Africa has come in, unified rugby boards and so on. I mean, it's like this great pool of talent that is out there that is either not being realized or is immediately poached.
I think also the business side of sport more in Gauteng. So the Kings have always struggled, have always struggled to be able to have good sponsorships for their teams, to be able to pay players. So that's also a bit of a challenge. As an Eastern Cape boy, I come from Eastern Cape. I came straight out here because the Bulls, let's say, had offered me a study bursary and a little bit of pocket money. So for that, my parents were exceptional about that there's an opportunity, you can play rugby and you can study. And so that's how I find myself here in this side of the world.
All right. Tell us about Dale College then. How did you get into Dale from your rural background? Was that through rugby?
No, not necessarily. I think for me, we actually came at the right time. I think in my age group, when I say my age group, it was post 95. So we were actually allowed to attend Molo C schools. So it came at the right time, I think. I feel my generation is probably a lucky generation within South Africa. We're able to enter schools at a very young age, and then you continue and you move through the ranks of the school.
Tell us about Dale, because I was down there last year for the Dale Selborne game to keep a long-standing promise to the headmaster. Yeah. They have an old boys fundraising breakfast the morning of the day, and it's all built around the rugby. And I was knocked out. I mean, I've never seen anything like it anywhere. I mean, tell us about Dale and tell us about the derbies.
I think just a quick one. I mean, Apu is a Dalian and he's just won an award. So for me,
that's right.
Yeah, it just shows,
a world award. Yeah,
a world award. It just shows. I think Dale is a community school, basically. I mean, for as long as I can remember, my dad has always spoken about Dale. I want you to go to Dale because it's got tradition. Rugby is a main sport. It shows good discipline. It's a good boys' school. It's almost like a pipeline for rugby players to get through. And as a school, they were able to. I mean, when Dale plays in King Williamstown, the whole town is quiet.
Yeah,
there's no.
They weren't very quiet when I was there. I can tell you,
the town is quiet. I mean, everybody
is at the game. Yeah,
all the parents are at the game, and to be able to, it was such a big thing to represent your school, whether it's the first team or seconds. And I was lucky enough to be the captain of the first team as well. And you, from Monday, we're playing Selborne. Everybody is telling you, good luck, my son. Do a good job for us there. Make us proud. So you almost like have a press conference before the game even starts. So it was, I've got fond memories of Dale. And then the relationships you build, it's amazing.
Yeah. Hooker. Why hooker? I mean, I've never been in a scrum in my life.
Yes.
I've fed thousands of them. And I can imagine a little kid goes into the scrum.
Yes.
I mean, rugby is a frightening game when you start off anyway.
Yeah.
And now you're the one person whose arms are pinned. I mean, when you look at it, it's actually insanity.
So when I got to the Bulls, I actually came as a lucid prop. Yes. So my 19 year, I was a specialist lucid prop.
Yeah.
And then I think Chile was the only hooker that they'd officially signed. So the agreement was, Bandise, we've signed 4 props. We've got 1 hooker. We see that you've got the ball skills to be able to play hooker. So what we'll do is we'll have 1 or 2 sessions that you throw, so that if Chile would injure himself, you would be able to, even if you did a job for us for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we would be happy with it. And that's how I got into it.
and were you happy about that? Because presumably you dreamt of success as a prop.
For sure. But I think, to be honest to you, it almost fast-tracked my career a little bit, because at the time there weren't very many hookers coming through the system, especially at the Bulls. And obviously with the chances of Chile also got a little bit injured early on in his career. So then I was able to establish myself as a hooker at junior teams, Vodacom Cup, Super Rugby, and then so it bounced in my court and I was able to hit that shot.
And I suppose as a professional, really, you do as you're told, don't you?
Were you
given a choice?
Yeah. I was given a choice, but I also realized my frame. I'm not someone who's got broad shoulders.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be able to play and compete against Dion Geiling. It does make sense. So I knew as a lucid prop, I'm probably limited at a certain age to play senior rugby. So it worked for me.
And the culture shock of moving from the Eastern Cape to Pretoria. Tell us about that.
Brilliant. And yeah, I mean,
and we're talking, I mean, a decade ago. So things have changed a lot since then.
A decade ago. And you know what? For me, the best thing was for people, you need to learn to be uncomfortable sometimes to be successful. So I knew when I
out of your comfort zone,
totally out of our comfort zone. At the time, Afrikaans was still the main spoken language in the passages, in team meetings, but I was able to make it work. So for some reason,
Did you ever feel any racism?
I don't think racism, but I think the big thing is for me, we as a Xhosa guy, we have a very strong culture, very strong personalities. And so, I mean, I was with Dion Geiling this weekend. Me and him bumped heads. Here's an Afrikaans boy, Wolfsian school. Here's a Del boy, English boy, Wolfsian. Now, how do we make it work? So we had those quarrels, but now me and him are the best of friends.
Fantastic.
Because he understood me as a Xhosa guy. You need to give him a little space. I'll give a little space, and common ground is find English. I'll learn Afrikaans. Let's find each other.
Did you learn Afrikaans? Or you'd have spoken Afrikaans to a degree, obviously.
Yes, I understand fully.
Yeah.
I understand. I still answer in English, but I can hear exactly what you say.
Take us back to the kid in Dale. Now, you're obviously rugby mad. You've grown up in rugby. You get this offer to go to the Bulls.
Yes.
What was your mindset about your life at that stage? Did you say it's rugby everything? Did you have a backup? Were you thinking of studying?
Yeah.
Was there a possible career? I mean, it's easy with an old head now to look back, but take us back to that youngster with wide eyes.
I think for me personally, I've got two older sisters who are one's 5 years older than me, the other one's 4 years older than me. For some reason, I could sense that my parents were a little bit under pressure financially. Both of them are at varsity. So I remember having a discussion with my mom. I played Craven Week the year before, and I could sense, but there was something that people could see that I could play rugby after post school. So I remember having a discussion and say, listen, mom, let's try to do this. There's an opportunity for me to go study in Pretoria. They'll give me a bursary. They'll give me a bit of pocket money, but you want me to study. So I'll study, and I was able to do a BTech in sports management.
Fantastic.
Which I finished. So the deal was...
That's rare. I mean, do you know how many professional rugby players complete their degrees? So well done on that one. So that, was that the sort of the agreement you had with your parents?
I had the agreement. Mom, I'll study. I'll play this thing for as long as I can. But the main thing, she wanted me to study.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember 2009, you're making your debut for, was it 2008? For Super Rugby. She's asking me, have you filled in your assignments? I'm thinking, I'm playing against the Chiefs next weekend, and you're asking me if your sports management business plan.
How tough was it? Did you ever come close to quitting the studies?
I came close.
I'm sure.
I was tested. Yeah. I think also you just have to. I learned to develop a routine quite quickly. One or two ladies in class, best students always. Ladies are always the best students. They do the best notes.
yes. Neatest,
neatest. So it might mean one or two small match fees, buys a few drinks on Saturday. But yeah, you find a formula and you make it work. And I've always enjoyed the pressures of being able to study and play, because I felt like I can close a couple of doors in terms of when I'm at class, I'm a student. When I'm on the field, I'm an athlete, and I've always liked that balance.
Tell us about Super Rugby, because I think you made your debut against the Chiefs, didn't you? Rotorua, was it?
Rotorua.
Yeah, that's right.
Rotorua.
I mean, 1 minute you're playing country rugby.
Yes.
Next minute you're playing for Dale. Then suddenly you're in the Bulls. Next minute you're playing Super Rugby. Give us an idea, to those who've never been there, the difference in level it is when you play Super Rugby to anything else other than tests.
Obviously, I think the intensity is massive.
What does that mean? What does intensity mean? Speed.
Yeah. Speed. Being able. The big thing is about Super Rugby is you have to be where you're supposed to be. That's as simple as that. How you get there doesn't matter. Obviously, it needs an engine. If you're not there, Karen Reid is gonna pick up and go score.
Yeah.
So it's that concentration level. It's amazing the concentration level you have to have, and the awareness of the detail. That's the only difference. Is players knowing their detail, being fit, and knowing what they have to execute.
So when players and commentators speak about accuracy,
yes,
that means you know the detail,
yes,
and you're in the right place at the right time doing the right thing.
And
is
obviously,
that right?
with fatigue, you get slower. Your decision making gets a bit slower. So that's why fitness is such an important thing in rugby.
And I'm fascinated because unlike soccer, for example,
Yes.
where everybody can be super fit because they've all got to be fast and move, hockey would be exactly the same.
Yes.
How do you draw the line between bulk and size and strength to be able to scrummage
Yes.
like a hooker?
Yeah.
And what you've talked about in terms of being able to be accurate and have that fitness. Is that a scientific thing, or is that just something you learn instinctively?
I think rugby changes every 2 or 3 years. It changes.
Yep.
So let's say initially a hooker, the perfect hooker in the world was John Schmidt. Big guy, big bulky. Was the game was a little bit slower. Then it goes on to now, and then it was a Skulk Brits type of hooker. Quick feet, very
Side
skillful.
steps, yeah.
Side steps.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, a guy like Malcolm Marx, we've gone back to almost like a Bismarck, big guy. So it almost shifts, and you, as a person, you have to know what's my perfect weight and what type of hooker will I be. You almost have to find a balance. What type? Am I a nippy guy? Am I a big ball carrier?
Yeah.
You have to almost, and it takes time.
And in a squad, I mean, obviously you're teammates together, but
Yes.
you're also fighting for positions.
Yes.
The balance of togetherness and brotherhood,
Yes.
and also competition. Tell us about that, because I mean, who were you up against when you were there with the Bulls?
It was myself, Gary Porter, Derek
Oof,
Keane.
there's a good player. Yeah.
Derek Keane, Chile, and myself. And you know what? They always say that the most competitive people within a sporting team is hookers and scrummers. There's very rare you find those two opponents having a beer after a game with each other. It's just the personality.
Yeah.
It's just a personality thing. Yeah.
Tell us about the drug scandal with Bjorn Basson and Chili Boy. I mean, in Ireland, because you then got called in,
Yes.
didn't you, for the rest of that tour?
Yes.
I remember everybody was devastated by it. And then suddenly they were not guilty, and suddenly they were the. What was it like from your perspective, and what actually happened there? Can you tell us?
I think, I mean, obviously, doctors will probably be able to answer
without the
question.
technicalities, though, you know, yeah.
I'm just trying to understand the question now. What was it? The question?
The question is what actually happened. There was some supplement that was given supposedly that had been passed by our medical people or by somebody.
I think it was a story about a batch, a container with a batch. I didn't quite actually get the story. I mean, our doctors really handled that. Yeah, so I wasn't. But we from then on, there was a change in sport that internal doctors must test the product. You can't literally depend on company X to actually know that this batch is a clear batch.
So the Springboks are responsible for what goes into their mouths.
Yes, and also the medical team.
Yeah,
it became a medical, because it's easy to trust company X when it says there's no banned substances. So now the whole sporting environment changed. Okay, a doctor must test the batch, and within the contract now, between whatever party and the team, there's a line that says they still take responsibility of that.
Do people cheat now?
I'm not quite sure. I think with the juniors and school level, definitely, because obviously
they're trying to get a contract.
Trying to get a contract.
Yeah,
trying to get a contract. I mean, at school level, I think it's still a massive thing, because also I think with the drug agencies, they're still quite under-resourced to be able to go test schools. So they'll still focus on more professional players.
Yeah. Tell us about moving province, because you moved around a little bit, didn't you? Kings and Lions, and then back to Bulls and so on. Tell us about the process. What makes you change? How does it actually work? And bear in mind, we don't know the insides now, and listeners don't. So you're sitting there, you're happy with the Bulls, maybe not getting quite enough game time. What's the process?
So for me personally, I mean, having won a super rugby with the Bulls, but I was on the bench. I was actually looking for an opportunity where I can actually start more games. And at the time, it was a process where the Lions were also looking for a hooker that's played at that level, who can just come in and slip in.
This was before the sort of Lions revolution, wasn't it? They were weak at the time, though. The Lions,
they were weak at the time, but John Mitch was actually there, and he almost sat down with me and said, "Listen, I've got a plan for you, I was sold to the dream of being able to play for Lions.
Yeah.
As well as there was also an external party. I think it was Mr. Gumede, who was also looking more on the business side. But listen, if you come to the Lions, I'll put this in place for
That's
you.
right.
You can
right.
play for us. On your off weekend, you can come work for me. And for me, that switch on the light bulb that here's a business guy in South Africa.
So hold on, he said you can come and work for. There was a job involved as well. Did anything come of that?
It didn't come of that because we didn't actually get to experience it because it was a contractual between the owners that he wants that.
It all went horribly wrong.
It went horribly wrong. So that for me was actually the pin that dropped to say, there's someone who says, Bandise, come to Lions, you can play rugby. I'm a business guy. I'm willing to put you under my arm. I've got 5 or 6 companies that you can slot in, and we'll make sure post-rugby that you can.
And then when the rugby side fell flat with him,
yes,
he never delivered on his promises to give you a job.
I'm still in contact with the son, but it didn't quite. It hasn't materialized yet.
So where did that leave you then with the Lions? Disappointed?
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed because I really wanted to establish myself as a player there. I knew John Mitch had a plan. It was something that we were willing to build. We were a very young side. I mean, JC van Rensburg, Pat Cilliers, Marco Rhodes, all of us were almost players that have come through a strong junior systems, but we're looking now to establish and build something forward with that. Elton Yanchis, I mean, all the guys, Warren Whiteley, all the guys who are doing well now are the guys who were there when the times were tough and we're trying to build something.
Talk about, again, I mean, now you're maturing as a player, you're moving up the ranks, you're getting a little bit older, etc. In terms of long-term future, did that cross your mind, or were you just busy living the dream?
It crossed your mind consistently, because it always crosses your mind, because especially for a guy from the Eastern Cape, where you know that my parents don't necessarily have a business, they don't have a farm. I'm going to have to find a way, an exit strategy outside of this rugby thing. It always crossed my mind.
So cross your mind or doing something about it?
So I still try to study. I'm still studying now at Wits. I'm doing a BA there.
Oh, right.
So I was always trying to upskill myself, and obviously the opportunity to meet influential people in which sports presents you, and network, and find out what people do and how people can assist you.
But you're speaking my language now, and the Sport Exchange, that's what we say. It's all about networks. You're dealing with sponsors, business people, all of whom love rugby. You must have been quite unusual in that regard, because a lot of young players are too busy living the dream and they can't think of the future.
Yes.
I mean, would you agree with that?
Definitely. And also, you almost have to change your mentality when you're dealing, because they're so excited to speak to you. For me, it was almost a thing where, let me find out what you do. Then, because people, there's a saying that people always remember how you made them feel. They might not remember what you said, but how you made them feel. So I always had an interest in what people do, and that's how you actually grow yourself as a person. Now you can call me on a Saturday and you'll discuss how the test match was, but there you're building relationships.
Why did you never go overseas?
I don't know.
I mean, it seems to me that unless you're looking at a World Cup, obviously a place in a World Cup, whatever, you stay. After the World Cup, you look and say, now, it's a question of euros versus rands, or yen versus rands. And in a way, it's almost, what's the word? Silly not to have an adventure and make a nest egg, etc. You must have received offers.
I did, but I don't know. I just always had this feeling, out of sight, out of mind. I don't know. And the offers, for me, the offers weren't good enough for me to think that I must pack my bags and go.
Where were they? France?
France. Yeah, France.
Any of the big clubs, or I mean, tell us more about these offers. Were they concrete offers, or were they just sort of rumors through?
I think was it Toulouse? There was an offer of Toulouse.
Wow.
There was an offer from Bayonne at the time. What other small club?
Toulouse, it doesn't get bigger than that, does it? Yeah.
But then for me, I don't know. I really can't answer. I've always had this thing where, you go overseas, you come back to South Africa. Yes, you might come back with some good money in your pocket, but then where to from there? Who's going to help you structure this thing? I just feel like you almost become a walking ATM. Everybody wants to drop something off you. I don't know.
Looking back, do you regret it? I mean, I spoke to Gary Bourta about his years in France. He's fluent in French. He's got mates over there. He says it was the greatest time, of his life, and now he's back here. Obviously, do you regret maybe not going that route?
I don't know. I just I don't have that feeling that says. I think for me now, I will enjoy traveling as a normal person. I think I'm more looking forward to that than playing there. I don't know. I just never had that burning desire to be able to play that side.
Did you ever get to a stage? I mean, you got your cap.
Yes.
We talked about that, which is amazing. You were there. You are a Springbok. Did you ever get to a stage where rugby was going to the office? I'm now going to the office. I've got my Springbok cap. I'm probably not going to get any further. So now this is the office. It's not a dream.
You do get to that point.
Is it? When did that come? When did that kick in?
I think for me, there was a time I remember Akona actually begged me. Akona actually begged. There was a time, I think when I was 28, 27, I thought to myself, Akona, there must be something bigger in life than what I'm doing now.
Yeah, running around the field, pushing weights.
Yeah, pushing weights. And the frustration that comes with it. Because I just felt the emotional side of it is massive.
Yeah.
When you go to a stadium, you feel like you're going to run over people. When you come back from the stadium, you feel like you're worst person. So it was for me an emotional roller coaster.
More on that. When you after the game, so to speak, you feel like the worst person. What do you mean?
Person. I mean, especially now, the expectation, you haven't met the expectation, and people still expect you to be normal when so much emotions that happened throughout the day. It was just the emotional roller coaster got to me. I'll be honest to you about that.
And do franchises have any facilities? Is there somebody you can speak to? Can you go and discuss the psychological side? Because you're under so much pressure.
Yes, yes. I mean, we're lucky at the Bulls. We've got a full-time sports psychologist. But also, again, there's always a taboo, especially, I think it's probably a male thing. There's always a taboo against psychologists.
Yeah. In sport,
I think,
and am I right in saying in black culture there's a
but also John, amongst us men, we never want to be vulnerable and actually share a story. But you know what? I'm actually struggling. I don't know how to handle
I'm scared.
this. I'm scared.
Yeah.
I mean, the ego in us, the testosterone within us and that's actually one of our biggest downfalls. Not to be able to get to an emotional point of sharing how you feel.
So how serious was it? How bad was it?
I mean, I could handle it, but I got tired of it. At the end, I was like, no ways. After end of the season, I was naked.
Yeah.
Emotionally. I mean, when we won the game, the Currie Cup with the Lions, I remember someone asking me, what do you gotta do on Sunday? I said, my bro, we've got this trophy. I just want to lie down and sleep.
What do rugby players do in the off season? I mean, the off season's short enough,
yes,
and especially on short-term contracts in Japan and France and England and so on. But what do you do in the off season?
I think, you know what, for me, it's.
Is it up to you, or are there programs?
No, there's obviously programs. There's obviously programs
to keep a level of fitness.
Keep a level of fitness. Obviously, rugby post competition, you almost have 2 weeks where. You just relax. Obviously, the only thing you have to worry about is your diet, and maybe the last 3 days of your break, they'll say run a 3K just to make sure the heart beats. But by the time you come back, the conditioner's got a 4 or 5 week program from week 1. What needs to happen, how you got to progress until Super Rugby starts.
Do you look forward to a new season, or do you say, "Oh my God, I'm going back to work after the holidays"?
I think for me, now that I sit here, I would have probably wanted to change my mentality around off season and to actually approach the conditioner in the sense that this guy wants to make me better.
Yeah.
So my whole approach would be different if I was now still a player. Back then you thought, yes, I have to run, I have to jump.
Beep tests. They still do those. Yeah.
So you always had this negative perception about off season, whereas everyone in the professional setup is trying to make sure that by the time 26th of February Super Rugby starts, you're in top nick, and if you can work together, you'll get yourself there.
How tough is the preseason?
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Give us an idea. Give us a day. Give us a normal day.
I mean, it could be a session in the morning. You're doing speed tests, germ. Then you're doing technical skills, which is passing. The afternoon, you have a field session. And then later in the afternoon, you got a proper fitness conditioning for 20 minutes type of scenario.
And every time, I mean, the specialist coach gets you. Yes. He wants you 100% committed to that.
And obviously now it's become more scientific, so they'll know what your max heart rate is. It's 189, so they'll give you a zone. You have to train at between 149 and 159 at heart rate. So each player has got his own zone where he has to train to improve his fitness.
And do you get some players who enjoy it and some players who don't?
No,
or is it just
I was one of those who was a moaner.
Really?
No, listen. me and Dunkheli were actually laughing. I was like, yeah, me and him, we could moan. We could tell a conditioner how good he is, but in a different language.
What would you have done differently looking back now? And don't get me wrong, you had an incredible career. I mean, it really is incredible.
Yeah.
Given where you came from, where you achieved, you've got that cap, etc. I mean, do you think you made as much of what you earned? I don't mean money-wise, but the opportunities that you had. Looking back now, what would you do differently?
I think for me, I would have probably enjoyed the victories a lot more and understand that this is actually special. Because you get in such a mentality that next week I'm playing the Crusaders, I have to win again. But listen, you've just beaten the Brumbies in the semi-final. So I would have probably enjoyed my victories. I would have enjoyed the tours and understand this could be a one in a lifetime opportunity to travel the world and see different places without sitting in your room.
So you'd have smelt the roses more.
Yeah, I would have smelled the roses more. I would have definitely smelled the roses more.
Tell us about retirement.
Yes.
What caused it? I mean, I know you had some injuries,
yes,
but you did all right with injuries, didn't you? Over the years, compared to some of the people we've spoken to. What led to the decision, and then what have you done since then?
I think for me,
did you prepare for it? Was it a quick decision, or had you been building up to it?
I think from the age of 28, 29, I started thinking, okay, listen, what's going to be my next plan here? Was playing another Super Rugby season going to make me happy? What did I want to achieve?
Because you're earning good money, though.
Yes,
I mean,
you're earning good money. Was I in Bok contentions? And also sometimes
because you were always sort of there or thereabouts, but never settled, were you? You're always the man who got called in.
Yes. Yeah. So those are difficult conversations you have about yourself. What else do I want to achieve? So then I started thinking, okay,
and who did you talk to about it, or was this all internal? Did you have a mentor or a confidant?
I was actually lucky to have a guy like John Mameta.
Who
played the Bulls for a very long time.
Prison officer.
Yeah.
Bulls, I mean, a genuine legend.
Yeah. And a guy like Tim Dlani who retired because of a neck injury.
Yeah.
So I had those two guys where I spent a lot of time trying to understand what does this mean post-rugby. So I was lucky enough to be able to have two people who actually held my hand and said, listen, it's not as easy as it is. Enjoy the moment. Save as much as you can. Educate yourself. Try meet different people who can open doors for you.
So when it came to the end, what was the reason you obviously now decided the Bok career was not going to go further, etc. You're thinking ahead. What process then did you follow? What were the steps?
So for me, I had an option of moving away from, let's say, from Joburg to, let's say, go play another maybe 2 seasons at the Kings, or 6 months deal with the Stormers for Super Rugby or the Sharks. Then I thought to myself, okay, at this moment, there's no guarantee there. So I could be there for 6 months, but in 6 months' time, I'm gonna find myself in exactly the same position. If I move to the Eastern Cape, what other opportunities are there for me post rugby?
Yeah.
So then the decision,
a depressed area.
Yes. So then for me the decision was, you know what, you in Joburg, there's lots of opportunities in Joburg. And at the time I'd started to speak to our CEO, current CEO, Brian van Graan, in terms of what else could I do post rugby. And for me, I remember the one time we were in Sydney. I was sitting next to him and I asked him a question, what do you do? What's your job? And he said to me, Bandise, is to make sure your salary gets paid every month. Yeah. Which for me actually opened up a different way of thinking. Then I was more interested in how do you make sure that my salary gets paid every month? Then he spoke about the suites. He spoke about
marketing sponsors, filling stadiums.
Stadiums. That for me almost lit the light bulbs. But that's the space I want to be in.
And so did you say to him, I'm interested, or what? How did you go from there to you being a franchise coordinator with the Bulls?
I said to him, I'm interested.
Yeah.
I just said to him, I said, I think I've got 6 months to go. I'm looking to have an exit strategy. If there's an opportunity for me here at the Bulls, I would like to. I think I can add a little bit of value. I'll continue to study. All I'm looking for is an opportunity to learn the business of sport.
And so what happened then?
I think him convincing obviously the board and the people within the environment, they were quite happy about what my personality, that affected. I've studied BTech sports management, and I was looking for opportunities.
I was going to say that your CV actually is ideal.
Yes.
Even though you've told us how at times sort of nebulous your thinking was.
Yes.
In fact, it almost has followed a path to what you're doing.
Yes.
I mean, so was that luck, do you think, or was it fate?
I think luck and fate.
Yeah, bit of both.
Bit of both.
Yeah.
But also, when you're a rugby player, you get to attend a lot of events. So you get to meet people. I almost knew it's either I'm going to join a sports agency, like let's say a sale or Mega Pro. I still want to be involved somehow with the business side of sport. Not necessarily the coaching side, but I just felt that's not normal. You back on that boat, you're traveling up and down.
Yeah.
You on an emotional roller coaster every weekend. And
it's not for everybody.
Not for everybody.
A lot of unhappy coaches out there and so on. Yeah.
And for some people, it could be addicted to that. They're addicted to that feeling. I was like, you know what? My endorphins have had enough.
So what is a franchise coordinator? What do you do?
So basically, we've got a partnership with Border and Poland. I mean, for us, those are the two unions that produce the best black athletes as well within South Africa. So the big thing was, how do we help them improve their systems? So last year we helped sponsor a Border Schools Day. We share resources with them. Some of their coaches come up and spend a couple of weeks with us. Their conditions come up. So it's almost like a platform where we are allowed to exchange information between the two unions and we better each other. But
and is that seen, and I want to be absolutely honest now,
yes,
because for a long time this was seen as fulfilling quotas. You have to have so many faces in a team, therefore we'll try and get the best. Is it seen like that, or is it seen as tapping into an incredible potential and resource that has been underutilized?
We're seeing it that way, tapping into a resource that has been underutilized for us. I mean,
because it wasn't always like that, was it?
It wasn't always like that. It wasn't. I think, again, my generation, we didn't actually experience where you feel like I'm actually feeling a numbers game. I can imagine the generations of previous generations that they probably felt, I'm just feeling a numbers. I mean, I felt I came into the rugby environment at the right time. We've just hosted the '95 World Cup. Everybody's
Did you ever feel like a quota player?
No.
Because a lot of people would say, you were always there or thereabouts. You got 1 minute of a career.
Yeah.
You sure you never felt that at all?
I never felt that at all. I always felt that I could always do a good job for my team.
Do you think there should be quotas now?
I don't think so.
I know they talk about that there's an unofficial no one's quite sure of the situation. But we know, for example, if teams started to go out lily white again, there would be political. Otherwise, I think there'd be outrage from an awful lot of people. Where are we with that now? Do you think it's time to say simply we pick on merit and everyone is trusted to do so?
I think we're in a very interesting stage, because at the end of the day, every coach will pick the player that shares the same dream. So basically, I'm saying we need to find more African coaches to go to the highest level. Or at this stage, if it's a 50-50, you'll always go towards more inclined to the person you can relate to. That's what I'm saying.
Interesting.
So and that's just human nature.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
But a lot of people would say, oh, there's racism.
Yes.
You mentioned your mates you stick with, they all happen to be black South Africans, etc. Where do you draw the line between freedom of choice and people just, language issue, for example, hanging around with people who speak the same language and separation?
John, it's the same. If you go into a conference room, you go to the people who you can relate to.
Yeah.
No one's...
I know what you mean. I've often thought of it.
No one's going to tell you where to stand. You check, okay, I'm comfortable there.
Yeah.
Coach is the same.
Yeah. I suppose leadership and goodwill are the key things that bring it through.
As long as we are aware of that, and if it's a 50-50, we must trust ourselves to make the right choice for the team. I think so.
Where are you going? I mean, you're now the franchising coordinator. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? As CEO of the Bulls?
I think so. I think for me, I don't have a target to say I want to be the CEO of whatever. I think if I can add value within the sport that did so much for me, I think that I'll be happy with that. I think I'm definitely look to continue studying as much as I can. I'm in a phase where I'm learning probably one of the best unions in the country, or if not in the world. I've got good people on top of me who also want me to be successful.
John Mitchell going, was that a blow?
I think it was a blow. It was a massive blow for us. Yeah. It was a massive blow. I mean,
I know a lot of people don't know what he's talking about, but I love John Mitchell.
It was a massive blow. It was a massive blow. And for me, I actually had a special relationship with him. Yeah. With John. We could always be honest to each other. I think it was a massive blow. And the players were just starting to get it. How he wants to play, and unfortunately he had an opportunity that he felt that would get him to. And
how big a blow is it going to be next season for the Bulls? Do you think? How are you going to fill the gap?
It's going to be tough for us. But I think
when is the decision? The decision is not made. Who's going to be the coach? Is it?
It hasn't been made yet.
I mean, I'm not going to ask you, but do you know who it's going to be?
Not yet. I'll be 100% honest. No, not yet. I think.
Would you be brought into that decision?
I don't.
Ex Springbok, recently retired.
I think it won't be officially.
No, sure,
but it will be in a conversation.
You'd be sounded out.
Yeah. I think it will always be within the conversation. What do you think of this? I actually feel I'm actually at a very, very, a very good spot to be able to understand what's happening.
Chiza Construction. Tell us about that.
So a friend of mine saw an opportunity where he himself was working within that space, but then he stopped working in that space so that we could actually enter that market. So it was basically for us a platform where we work with insurance companies, renovate small renovations, burst geysers.
You fix things.
We fix things.
Yeah, and it's going well.
It's going well.
Fantastic stuff. And that's MCHIZA. If people want to...
Yes, info@chiza.co.za.
All right, lovely. So again, the how can I say, even though we've discussed the difficulties of looking at careers and other income streams, you've managed to put a fair bit together then. Was that as much luck as planning, do you think?
Luck. Sometimes I just feel planning as well, but when you play, you never know what exactly you want to do.
Yeah.
Post rugby.
But you also should know that a broken leg can happen tomorrow and finish your career. Yes. But God forbid.
For sure. But when you're in that space, you don't quite understand. You always think this boat where I'm on will continue to move at the same speed.
What advice would you give to do you give to youngsters? Because you're obviously in an important franchise and dealing with other franchises. Understanding that to tell a 19-year-old kid who's just started living his dream, he must look at the life after rugby and pensions and things like that is obviously difficult. What advice would you give him?
I think whoever's looking to approach youngsters, I think the best model is still going to be their parents. If you can present to parents what can happen. Every parent wants what's best for their children, and also, some homes in South Africa we have broken homes.
Sure.
So some parents have never ever seen a contract. So we've still got massive challenges in terms of socially how we can get players to understand the planning of finances.
Surely to talk to old players should be absolutely compulsory, because you get I'll pick a name, Victor Matfield, a young lock who comes to the Bulls, and you sit him down with Victor Matfield, one of the greatest players, not just locks, of all time, and he can say, look, I did A, B, I made mistakes, I should have done this, that and the other. And is there not a mentorship role for old players? I would have thought that's a no-brainer.
There's a massive gap for them, but also, as men we never want to share where we came short.
Yeah.
We never want to share, well, listen, you know what, I actually didn't do that well. So as much as we are male, there's a massive gap for us as just in general, whether you're an athlete or not athlete, how can we find ourselves to be vulnerable to share where we were short? Yeah. There's a massive gap within South Africa, just generally.
I've often thought, though, mentorship about rugby issues on the field and rugby issues off. I look at Jesse Creel, for example. Yes. Can you imagine if you had an agreement with Dani Gerber where he could phone Donny and say, look, I'm battling ABC. What do you think? Whatever.
Yes.
And you could also perhaps mentor on, off the field, talk about it, have that relationship would be something that could be very beneficial for South Africa.
Very beneficial. But also, John, we're also dealing with a different generation these days.
Sure.
I mean, generation where they almost know everything.
Yeah.
But
every guy, when he reaches an age, looks at the youngsters and says, oh, they think they know everything.
Yes.
That's what our parents said about us, be honest. Eh?
For sure. But I mean, this generation, I mean, I was speaking to some coaches, as a coach the other day, and says, do you know how difficult it is these days to motivate players to play for you? Because they feel like they've got so many options. If he's not happy at the Bulls, I'll make a phone call, I'll move to this union.
But that's someone who's going to the office then, isn't it? He's not playing with passion, he's going to the office. And if your coach cannot motivate people, then he's not doing his job.
John, it's a different generation.
Yeah.
It's a different generation. Different generation of players. There's no sense of loyalty to anyone. It's almost... There's no sense of loyalty.
But you see, the problem, I've put this to players, and players says, yeah, but there's no loyalty to us. I break my leg, there's no loyalty to me. A new guy comes in who's better than... so it goes both ways, doesn't it? Maybe that's the secret.
Yes.
To engender that loyalty both ways.
Yes.
And that's where you get I look at the Lions, who are absolutely the worst franchise in the world.
Yes.
And a couple of years later, they're a model that other teams look at. You look at Saracens in England, the same. So there is
And I mean, we were at the Bulls, we were able to do that as well. Imagine a generation where you had 4 international locks, and all those locks were happy to stay.
Yes.
I mean, Danny Rousseau, Bakkies, Francois van Skorenberg, Victor, all those locks were happy to be part of that system because there was a sense of loyalty.
Yeah, I remember when you won the Super Rugby and beat the Chiefs in 2009 at Loftus, in front of a packed Loftus. I think that is the greatest performance a South African team has put on since I've been here in 37 years. And yet I suppose now it's almost forgotten, isn't it?
Almost forgotten.
Yeah.
But it's a work in progress.
Bandise Maku, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Stay in touch with us. We wish you well. If you want any construction done, any insurance people out there, Mchiza Construction, give us the website again.
info@mchiza.co.za.
And good luck with the rest of your career. Thanks for talking to us.
No, thank you very much, John. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's certainly an honor and privilege to be able to come and share my story with you.
Thank you. What an interesting chat, and a man we'll hear more about in the future. Thanks as usual to Slow in the City for hosting us. Follow us on social media or subscribe via your favorite podcast app for updates. See you next time on the Sport Exchange podcast. Cheers from John Robbie.